Good evening and welcome to SVG-TV News for Monday, April 11th, 2022. I am Rochelle Batiste with the details. We're going to bring to you now our Rise from the Ashes series. Lead scientist with the UWI Seismic Research Center, Professor Richard Robinson, believes it is difficult to predict how many years it will be before Lasso volcano explodes again. After being dormant for 40 years, the volcano experienced an explosive eruption on April 9th last year after being in an effusive state from December 2020. Responding to a question on NBC Radio Today, Professor Robinson said the seismic research team can only give warning about an explosion in the hours leading up to an event.
It's easy as you get closer to an event, to an eruption, to detect when it's likely to happen. That's why it comes down to the wire, the last 24 hours. If you ask me, given what Frey is doing now, what's the chances of it happening, of an eruption happening in the next 50 years? Look, let's go back. Let's go to 50 years. In the last 50, I tell you that is probably very likely. Let's say 100 years. If you say 100 years, I'll say certain. As you get closer to the time when the event can happen, you become more uncertain about whether it can happen. So I'll be surprised if it does in the next 5 years. I would be surprised if it does in the next 50 years. I would be surprised if it doesn't erupt in the next 100 years.
Professor Robinson said the unpredictability of Lasso means that the seismic research team has to continue to monitor the volcano closely.
Is the need for us to keep on looking at it. I'd be surprised if it does without us seeing it first in terms of the signals that we have. And given the knowledge that even we have learned from what has happened now, we are studying what this volcano did. We're going to keep on studying it to try to figure out and understand better what it did last time so that we are better prepared for the signs that it will give next time. People don't realize that Frey actually behaved quite properly this time. It actually gave us some nice signals that we were able to make the call. And we'd like to hope to use that so that going forward, if and when it happens in the future, we can detect it.
Residents in the North Windward communities of the island are worried about the length of time it is taking to rebuild 1 year after the eruption of Lasso. Our news team visited the area recently and spoke with a number of residents in the communities of Fancy and Owia who say while they are happy to be back home, they are growing frustrated with the way to have their homes repaired. We hear more in this report.
It looked very desolate to me. Yeah, I thought that we would not come back here right now. Yeah, and there was no water in the river, you know. The landscape was changed completely.
Residents in Owia and Fancy had all but given up hope that they would recover from the devastation their communities suffered last year. Already reeling from the effects of the 2021 eruption of Lasso, they were dealt another heavy blow during the passage of Hurricane Elsa in July.
The people them really they work hard. They work hand in hand because a lot of them they couldn't get to do it all alone. So they had to get help. And Fancy is always a community who always help one another.
Even as the community rallied together to help each other, 1 year later, many are still struggling to rebuild and repair the damage to their homes. Residents told SVG-TV News there are over 30 homes in the Fancy area which are in need of repairs.
Well, a part of the house roof will blow off and certain things damaged in the house. Then I'm complete because he got some work this still left back to do.
Because I'm just on the hurricane and suffering. So I can't see house leaking. When I come back, some galvanized block from my house, I have to come up back and pick them up and put on on it. Some of them bust up on the hurricane.
And in Ovia, the challenges continue for residents and farmers.
As soon as a little rain fall, I think me have to put the bottle pouring water and I don't get a window or nothing. And my washing machine, you right there now, ash the anything working. Some of them I get, but I ain't getting nothing. Because they're sharing too much galvanized and I ain't getting none. And run up to my house there, all about done rusting.
It's really rough. Come like we start over fresh. Our route where I used to plant, I used to make $4,000 and I finish dig and then create by the factory and they grind it. We go down Orange Hill and we collect my check down there. Right. But now we can't collect none. Everything burned down. Factory mash up, so we can't. So we plant in our route again.
The village of Bottom Town in Ovia is one of the area's hardest hit. Houses destroyed by ashfall and heavy rains are now deserted, with possessions still left inside. Some residents have been trying to foot the bill for house repairs, but with no jobs and unable to reap crops from farming, the future looks bleak for persons here.
People promised me to fix it up with me, the government. And from the time they start, it's twice they leave it. So they told me that they don't have no material as yet. So when they get material, they will come and fix it up for me. So I'm waiting on them to come. Otherwise, a real rough condition, me the in when we come in. Sometimes when we come off my bed, water reach me all by my ankle.
If the stuff is here, then maybe one set of people I see looking at, and well, nobody didn't come here, period. We're just trying to cope with the situation for now.
We have nothing to depend on right now. Well, the government doing their best. They try, open back the program for the house, putting on back roof, but I don't know what is the problem. I find they need to, whoever control need to do a more speedy workers. We're having a problem with the galvanized. And I don't know, but like me see, we like that up here like it's the Ballocket era. Because all them houses, they break the house here, and that house they made there, break down from the Frey. You have two down there, them are from the Frey. And you got a guy have a shed, a place that he used to have his little Bill Black sample, his little music. The Frey break that down. If the people really set back it, because you cannot set back without the way been a live off that you can't get to do it again. So I don't think that the people really on a mind that settle it.
North Windward residents say they hope brighter days are ahead. Reporting for SVG-TV News, Christina Smith.
In other news now, the Ministry of Health, Wellness and the Environment has revised the entry protocols for unvaccinated travelers to SVG. The ministry said the aim is for the safe entry of travelers to SVG in a manner that reduces the risk of the importation and subsequent transmission of COVID-19 on island. It said the objectives are to establish the risk of the arriving traveler, introducing new COVID-19 cases to SVG to minimize the exposure of residents of SVG to new COVID-19 cases, early detection of potential exposure to COVID-19, and early containment of new COVID-19 cases. To establish risk for arriving traveler, he or she will be required to complete the pre-arrival form available at health.gov.vc, and the port officer will review port health form from each arriving passenger. From April 9th, 2022, travelers to St. Vincent and the Grenadines must arrive with a negative SARS-CoV-2 RT-PCR COVID-19 test result as per the following. If you are coming from a high or medium risk country, you must arrive with a negative result of a COVID-19 RT-PCR test done no more than 72 hours or 3 days before arrival. May be retested for COVID-19 on arrival in SVG. Must mandatory quarantine for 7 days in a tourism authority, Ministry of Health approved transition or quarantine hotel at their cost, must be retested on day 5 of quarantine. If you are coming from a low-risk countries, that is the country of residence will be the last country that the traveler was present in for at least 21 days, which include Antigua and Barbuda, Bonaire, Jamaica, Guyana, Belize, Bahamas, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Lucia, Taiwan, Suriname, and Montserrat. You must arrive with a negative result of a COVID-19 RT-PCR test done no more than 72 hours. You must be tested for COVID-19 RT or PCR on arrival in SVG at the discretion of the port health officer and must quarantine for 3 days. For more information on the revised protocols, you can visit the SVG Health Facebook page or call the Ministry of Health. And on a recent program on the API's morning talk show, Chief Medical Officer Dr. Simone Keyser Beach explained that although some of the protocols have been relaxed, individuals are still expected to think and act responsibly. She also took the time to remind persons that certain rules still apply and the necessary caution must be applied.
Mass gathering rules, those were completely repealed so that, yes, you can have as many persons in your church, you can go to your nightclub, you can eat indoors. But what continues on is that the public health COVID rules, those were just amended. So those are still in place, except for rule number 2, which spoke to places of entertainment. That was repealed completely to be in keeping with the repeal of the mass gathering rules. Rule number 4 was revoked, and that one was for the dining indoors that allows the persons to have restaurants for you to eat indoors. I'm not sure if many people remember, but you were not supposed to be eating indoors in a restaurant. And then rules number 7, 7A and 7B, those were revoked, and those had to do with the fines that were applied to the van drivers, the conductors, in terms of them having restricted capacity, not being able to fill up the van in terms of how many persons they were allowed to carry, in terms of being fined because they were not vaccinated or they were not tested. So those components of the public health rules, those were either repealed, they were removed, revoked. But the rules 5 and 6, which require that masks are still used in public spaces and private spaces to which the public has access to, those remain. So if you go into a store, you are still required to wear a mask. If you go into a government building, you are still required to have a mask on.
The CMO further pointed out that the protocols that remain are due to the low vaccination rate, which still leaves an open door to new variants to spread if persons are caught without wearing a mask. Reminding persons that health is a shared responsibility, Kesa Beach further encouraged those who have not yet done so to get vaccinated.
It is on you now. We have provided you with everything you need to know and everything you need to have to be able to protect yourself and reduce the likelihood of being infected with the COVID virus, okay? So there's not much more we can do. You need to be responsible. We're getting more and more evidence about new persons who have had COVID being developing diabetes, or if you're diabetic, becoming worse. We have other evidence about what happens to your brain function if you get COVID. All of these things, we have to be aware and we have to take responsibility. We in the Ministry of Health say your health is a shared responsibility. We are doing our part, you need to do yours.
A number of media practitioners here were today engaged in a seminar entitled Understanding and Combating Human Trafficking. The training seminar is part of activities being held in commemoration of the 10th anniversary of the Anti-Trafficking in Persons Unit of the SVG Police Force. Addressing the opening ceremony at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs Conference Room, head of the Anti-Trafficking in Persons Unit, ASP Junior Simmons, said the main aim of the seminar is to sensitize all stakeholders, including media personnel, on how to identify and combat human trafficking in SVG.
Anti-Trafficking in the Grenadines is very much a part of that global fight to eliminate this unnecessary evil from our civilization. Human trafficking is organized crime. The traffickers are well organized in their intent to exploit the most vulnerable in our society and to profit excessively from their criminal networks and activities. Therefore, it will take a better organized and strategic approach by all stakeholders, including media, to stop the traffickers and bring them to justice. So this is the main essence of this training seminar here that will take place today.
Also delivering brief remarks at the opening ceremony was Assistant Commissioner of Police Leonard Fergus, who referred to a quote by former U.S. President Barack Obama while outlining the 4 ways in which human trafficking can be eradicated, including protection, prevention, prosecution, and partnership.
Other stakeholders eradicate the scourge of human trafficking. I assert that there must be a resolute effort to employ the internationally accepted strategy of the 4 Ps, which are as follows. 1. Protection. Protecting the victims from the crime of human trafficking. 2. Prevention. Proactively preventing the crime of human trafficking from taking root in our country through training, education, sensitization on matters of relating to human trafficking. 3. Prosecution. Investigating all reports of human trafficking and successfully prosecuting the traffickers. And 4. Partnership. Partnership is the fight against this crime is key. It is imperative that not only local partnerships are formed among stakeholders, but regional and international as well, if we are to, in a serious and sustained way, counter human trafficking.
Minister of Finance Camila Gonzalez, who delivered the keynote address, said human trafficking is a multi-billion-dollar business that negatively impacts economies and labor forces in countries where human trafficking is in place.
Resemble slavery. It affects employment and the labor force. When you have organized crime establish a foothold in your country, the thing about organized crime is in its name, it's organized. And once organized crime establishes a foothold in your country, it branches out to other activities that have negative impacts on economic development. And so human trafficking is a human rights issue, it's a crime issue, but it is very much a development issue and an economic issue, and St. Vincent and the Grenadines has to be cognizant of that. And that's why I'm here. You as journalists are here because the fight against human trafficking, particularly in a country like St. Vincent and the Grenadines, is very much a public relations and education battle.
Minister Gonzalez said although St. Vincent and the Grenadines is not a hot spot for human trafficking, with an international airport and new hotels being constructed, persons should be more educated and alert in identifying human trafficking around them so that it can be stopped very early.
St. Vincent and the Grenadines currently is not what you would call a hot spot of human trafficking. And we have to thank a number of factors for that. One of those factors being, of course, the good work of the Anti-Trafficking in Persons Unit, our location, our history, our culture, our religious background, and a number of things that play a role. Our policing. But increasingly, human trafficking will become a threat to development in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. More so than just a decade ago when the unit was created. And people have to be educated as to what human trafficking is. They have to be alert to identifying it, to diagnosing it, to confronting it. And the media plays a very, very special role in that regard. It's very critical that the media understand and recognize human trafficking when it occurs and discuss it regularly with their readers, their listeners, their viewers, so that it can be stopped early. Because history has shown in other countries that once it establishes a foothold, human trafficking is very, very difficult to eradicate.
The closing of the seminar, 5 officials were awarded and recognized for their contribution in combating human trafficking over the 10 years of operation of the Anti-Trafficking in Persons Unit. Disgusting. That's how one survivor from the capsized MV Fairchance is describing the response of the authorities in Trinidad and Tobago. The St. Vincent and the Grenadines registered a vessel overturned in TNT's waters on Saturday, April 2nd. 2 of the 7-member crew escaped alive. So far, 1 body was recovered from the vessel and 4 people remain unaccounted for. We hear more on this story from TV6 News.
Look at this position right now. We out here, there is no Coast Guard, there is nobody can have a look. We out here, there is nobody with us to, it's time going. It's today, it's 6th day. Today is the 6th day. 7 days since this incident took place. The guy's body down there. Look at that, the divers, the salvage team, see they're seeing the bodies, but they cannot get the bodies out due to the guys and them at the trap. So we are here just lonely.
It's an all too familiar cry, coming closely on the heels of the para-diving tragedy. 4 persons remain unaccounted for after the MV Fairchance ran into difficulty last Saturday and started taking on water. 2 men were rescued and 1 body was retrieved, but the other people who were on board the MV Fairchance are still unaccounted for.
The guys them were alive. You could see actually the boat was way up over the water. So in the procedure of that, we came to Coast Guard base and we went out there fast and seen and very disgusting with this government. The government of Grenada is not coming up with anything. The government of St. Vincent. And look at that, the Trinidad government is not helping us to recapture those guys. Those guys are still in the boat. We only recapture 1 of those bodies. And we need that, the family, everybody, and need to get back home and come on, the age and nobody's not saying anything to eat. We are very disgusting.
Mr. McIntosh says at this point he's given up all hope of ever seeing his friends alive again. But closure is desperately needed.
At least we need to get the bodies. We need to get the bodies. Because I need to go home, you know, I need to go home. At least the crew member come back and stuff is with the body. We know right now there's a person that died. So we need to get the bodies to go home. The family calling, the sisters calling, everyone is calling. and the people of Trinidad, St. Vincent government, Maritime, everybody come together and let's get this boat flipped, please. We're begging for help. Come together, get this boat flipped. We're begging, we need help.
Meantime, President of Fishermen and Friends of the Sea, Gary Abood, is calling for a commission of inquiry into the incident.
There should be a commission of inquiry into what has happened here, because the first 24 hours, as anyone will tell you, in a rescue mission is most critical. After that, it's expected that they would have expired. After that, it becomes a recovery mission. So why didn't the Coast Guard dive initially? To say that the water was rough is not a proper excuse, because when you dive down 10 or 20 feet below, there's no roughness. And if the tide is moving, everything is moving, including the vessel. So why didn't they respond? Do the Coast Guard have capacities on their expensive vessels? They should have equipment, do they? And if they don't, why not? They employ 27 divers. Were any of the divers on the vessels? If not, why not? And what will become of this? What will become of the families? Will they be paid compensation?
The Vincentian cargo ship was en route to Kingstown when tragedy struck.
Over 50 people joined the National Parks, Rivers and Beaches Authority beach cleanup at Big Sun Beach in Sandy Bay last Friday. The cleanup exercise is in preparation for the turtle nesting season, which runs from March to September. Big Sun Beach is the most active beach for nesting hawksbill and leatherback turtles.
Well, again, I think throughout the whole of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, we are dealing with plastic pollution. And it has been really difficult, especially for us, because we are always cleaning. And sometimes we have to think about, we ourselves think about, does this make sense? Does it make sense to clean? And then we have to go and clean again. But we just can't give up. What we have to do is educate. We have to educate our students, we have to educate our children, we have to educate everyone. So from a national park standpoint, from an NEDC, from a National Environmental Days Commemoration Committee standpoint, we're going to do our best not to really educate the public and get them aware of the impact and the harm of plastic and pollution to the environment. But remember, it also affects our health.
Volunteers told SVG-TV News they want to see Vincentians take better care of the beaches in the interest of the sea turtles.
We have the community out here today and the represented management agencies all assisting in this effort to basically clean the beach so that when the turtles come up that they have easier time during nesting. And we're hoping that this effort would also spur more efforts coming along, not only on the windward side of the island, but also on the leeward side of the island and in the Grenadines.
Tell them stop, like if anytime you came on the beach, carry like something to recycle or paper bag to throw your garbage inside, so more than just throw them on the beach, because a lot of people love the beach and they want to like to see their beach like this.
Yeah, if people need to like protect the turtles on them and don't destroy them. Like, don't kill the turtles on them. They're supposed to allow them to come and nest and go. So right now we are just only cleaning the beach because the beach is very dirty. Plastics and sticks and so on is on the beach. So yeah, we just need people to help us clean the beach.
And Turtle Monitoring Officer with National Parks, Rivers and Beaches Authority, Jeff Lavey, is calling on Vincentians not to harass sea turtles when they come to nest. Lavey, who spoke to SVG-TV News at the National Parks, Rivers and Beaches Authority cleanup exercise of Big Sand Beach on Friday, said he is concerned that the hawksbill and leatherback turtles, which are endangered species, are not being treated with care by members of the public. Lavey said he has witnessed incidents where nesting turtles were harassed and choose to venture to other Caribbean islands to nest.
Here and they harass it. She will not come back here. If she comes and see the area is not to her suit, she will not come back here. I will going to give an example. One time we was here and a turtle came here, and I've seen where people try to vandalize the turtle. A young man, a gentleman, take a cutlass, and because the leatherback turtle, their shell is very soft, it's leather. Naturally, that's a soft. So you can take a knife and mark it and leave it as a scar. And I've seen where a young man did that. And you know what happened? When I went Grenada to train, I was on the beach one night in Grenada. And I said, look at this scar. You see those scar on her back? That was in Big Sand. So I'm saying this to say that she was harassed here. And she leave here and she went Grenada and Ness. So that's why it's very important that, you know, I would urge Vincent when they meet turtle, do not harass the turtle, especially sea turtles.
Lavi said there has also been a decrease in the number of turtles coming to Big Sand Beach to nest. He said this is primarily due to the poor condition of the beach.
April, now is April, we normally at least supposed to there are 5, 6, 7 turtles. But now we only have 3. So we are falling back. I think last year we have the year in 2021 we have 46, 22 we fall back because the beach wasn't in a good shape night either, right? So we only had I think around 25, 26 around there. This year we want to see improvement. We like to see more improvement, right? But because of the condition, that's why we choose to do the cleaning so that we can get more improvement. Normally, the importance of cleaning it, when the turtle nest, when the turtle hatch, because we got to look out for the young one. When the young one comes out, we need to find her way back to the sea.
And the National Parks, Rivers and Beaches Authority will be celebrating World Earth Day on April 22nd with a tree planting exercise and environmental awareness activities. Plans for this year's edition of the hottest carnival in the Caribbean, Vincy Mas, are almost finalized. After a 2-year hiatus, carnival lovers across SVG and beyond are anticipating their favorite carnival events. Marketing and Development Officer of the Carnival Development Corporation, S.E. Roberts, shared on SVG-TV's Viewpoint program on Sunday that he had initially suggested to the government that the activities for Vincy Mas 2022 held as vaccinated events. However, as the protocols have been lightened, he liked most of intentions, is happy that Vincy Mas 2022 would be held in its full glory as traditionally known. Roberts said that with a few shows added to the list of events, CDC now has a very packed lineup of events, which will kick off with the official launch on April 30th, culminating with Mardi Gras Day on July 5th.
And after missing Carnival for 2 years, you have to get people in the mood for Carnival again, because some person would have lost interest along the way, you know, so to speak. So what we have done was to develop, which we had proposed to the government, was for us to do a vaccinated Carnival based on the situation at the time. However, scenarios have changed and we are now, based on the current protocols, allowed to do a full Carnival. Okay? Now, the calendar that we have, what we had planned initially, was for activities on the first weekend of Carnival, which would have been from June 24th, okay, that first weekend, and then activities again the following weekend from the Friday to the Tuesday. That basically remained. We have added Junior Calypso Soca in the mix because that was not part of the original plan, okay, hence we had the juniors performing along with the school band showcase last Saturday at Victoria Park. But coming out of that, there's keen interest in Calypso and Soca, so we'll be able to do our Calypso competition, Soca competition within the Carnival. We're starting off with Energy on Saturday, 30th April, okay? And then we have Mardi Gras on Tuesday, July 5th, all right?
Events coordinator and promoter Karen Vera said that although her mass band Oxygen would be on board for Vincy Mas 2022, it will be on a smaller scale because of time constraints.
Once Carnival Tuesday is in Kingston, Oxygen will be in Kingston. The scale of which we're going to be doing it is going to be far less than what we're accustomed because of the time constraints that we were given. It will be virtually impossible for us to produce the elaborate costumes that we previously done because of the timing. I mean, we start to plan for a year directly after we finish, right? So with an announcement in April, that is confirmed that there's Carnival, it really gives us 2-3 months to get everything organized, which is impossible for us. So we're gonna do a small scale, but the vibe's gonna be the same. We intend to make sure people have a very good time because everybody's hungry for Carnival.